Hello guys, I feel like it's been a while since I did one of these, although they sneak up on me. But you've now taken first test, which I will take some time to kind of go through those, analyze the scores, figure out, what that breakdown kind of looks like, and then go over any questions that you have, any questions that were missed by a lot of people. All of that we will do next week on Monday and Wednesday in class. But I want to dive right in to chapter 4, which is all about tort law. So in chapter 4, we not only go through all the material, but then also we're going to do the hot coffee documentary, which I will have all of that stuff posted by Monday, meaning the grading rubric and the assignment, so that you can ask me any questions in class. We'll go through all of that. That will not be due until the following Friday. So you've got plenty of time to get that done, but I will go over it so you know exactly what's going on. And kind of see how chapter 4 with torts ties into the hot coffee documentary. So, starting with a tort. I know that kind of sounds like a pastry, but it's not. It is actually a legal term. So, a tort is a wrongful act. That's your first blank. A wrongful act that results in harm or injury to another and leads to civil liability. So, a wrongful act that results in harm or injury to another. So, basically, a tort, it's an act, whether it be intentional or not, and we're going to talk about the difference, but it's an act that somebody does, or doesn't do if they were supposed to have done it, that causes somebody harm or injury, and because of that harm, they can be sued in a civil lawsuit. So point A under that, tort, it's designed to provide monetary compensation. They are designed to provide monetary compensation, and in parentheses what I mean by that is damages. So as a result of somebody's wrongful act, whether it was intentional or not, that caused you some harm or injury, you have the right to sue them for compensation, for money, for damages. So diving into a little more about what a tort is. So when we talk, I'm on my back deck doing this video. You can probably hear my neighbors yelling for their dogs. Sorry about that. Again, I'm trying new places with every video. So types of damages. So when you sue somebody for the wrongful act, there's certain different types of damages that you can ask for. Number 1 is compensatory damages. Compensatory damages. Like the word suggests, those are designed to reimburse the plaintiff for the actual value of their injury or their loss. They're designed to compensate. They are compensatory damages, designed to reimburse or compensate, whichever you want to say, the plaintiff for the actual value of their loss or their injury. 2 different types of compensatory damages. Point A is special damages. Special damages, those are something you can quantify. For example, a medical bill. You caused this damage when you ran into my car. I went to the hospital. Here's my medical bills. I want you to compensate me for those. Those are special damages. On the other hand, point B are general damages. General damages. That is non-monetary, not an actual value. For example, that is pain and suffering. You've probably heard of people suing for pain and suffering. Obviously, there's no amount that I can say, okay, you rear-ended me. I went to the hospital. Not only are my medical bills right here, but also, I suffer now. Every morning when I wake up, my back hurts, or every time I do this, my arm hurts. I can't really show you that number, but I'm entitled to compensation because of that injury. And so those are called general damages. Those are ones that you use experts to try to quantify and put a number on those, but it's not like you can just hand somebody a bill. These are non-monetary, like pain and suffering. But that's a type of compensatory damage known as a general damage. In addition to compensatory damages, meaning to compensate you, there's another type. Number 2, punitive damages. Like that word might suggest, they are designed to punish the defendant for particularly egregious conduct and to deter similar conduct in the future. So punitive damages, they're meant to punish this defendant for whatever they've done and deter similar conduct in the future. So in an instance where we're talking about an accident, something that somebody didn't mean to do, punitive damages probably aren't going to be appropriate. That person isn't, they're not intended to be punished or deter them from doing this in the future because it was an accident. But where you've got some pattern behavior, some intentional, egregious behavior, it might be appropriate to ask for damages to punish that person and deter them from doing that again in the future. So again, when you sue somebody for a tort, in a tort action, those are the types of damages that you might be asking for. Classification of torts. Like I said, there's two different breakdowns of torts. Sometimes you accidentally did something and sometimes you intentionally did something. Both can be considered a tort. So, number one, and again, you can be liable for both. Even if you didn't mean to do something, you can still be liable for it. Number one, an intentional tort. Intentional tort. That is a wrongful act committed knowingly and with the intent to commit the act. All right, so you did what you did knowingly and with the intent to commit the act. Number two, on the other hand, is unintentional tort. Unintentional tort. That is a wrongful act committed without knowing its wrongfulness or without intending to commit the act. All right, so you've got your intentional ones where somebody knowingly committed a tort and they intended to do so. And then you've got unintentional, where somebody did it without knowing the wrongfulness of it or without intending to commit it. But at the end of the day, you can be liable for both types of torts. All right, now we're going to get into intentional torts versus unintentional. First, we're going to focus on intentional torts against people. Intentional torts against people. Now, what you will see in this outline of different intentional torts, a lot of these can also bring criminal liability. But as we've talked about, and we'll talk about more in the criminal chapter, just because somebody is charged with a crime for something they did against you doesn't mean that you're precluded from also filing a civil lawsuit against them to recover those damages. So they can be charged criminally and have a civil lawsuit filed against you or against them. So if that's the case, remember it would be the Commonwealth versus Whitney Denson for whatever I did. But the person I harmed could also file suit against me, John Smith versus Whitney Denson. Those things can coincide. So when I talk about intentional torts, some of these are going to sound criminal because they can be. So number one is assault. Assault, that is any word or action intended to create in another person a reasonable apprehension or fear of immediate harmful or offensive contact. All right, assault, any word or action that's intended to create in another person a reasonable apprehension or fear of immediate harm, pointing a gun at someone. That can be considered assault because I haven't done anything to injure you yet, but my intentional act of pointing that gun at you, the word or the action, I did that with the intent to scare you, to create apprehension or fear in you. That can bring liability.